stuff we should all try to avoid, first of all. And it really probably has to do with more with people who are renting. Um, you know, for things like long-term investments, you certainly want to know about ways to protect your home from like rodents, and things like that, and be more, you know, it probably pays off to be more proactive in the beginning than it does to have a problem and have to deal with it. Um, so I've got like 5 things here I wanted to talk about. We got fleas, bed bugs, German roaches, our domestic roaches, and rodents. So does anybody want to start somewhere in particular?
It's your deal.
Let's talk about rodents.
I've had all of those at the same time in one place before.
I can imagine. Sure.
So just start off with all of them.
Yeah. Well, let's start with fleas because they can be a big problem in between tenants. I pulled up a few things here, and I might could share a screen later just to show pictures of stuff so that you can kind of see like what a bed bug looks like or something if you don't know. So I don't know if I can share my screen or not. I think I might have to, there's that. But anyhow, so fleas. Well, the thing to know about fleas is they go through a life cycle that can take a long time to get through. So if you're turning over a property and you have a flea problem, you need to know what to do. So you need to understand the life cycle of the flea. So a flea primarily lays eggs when the animal is sleeping. The eggs hatch into a larva. The larva squiggle around for a little while, spin a silk cocoon, and go into a pupa stage. And it's from that pupa stage they become adult fleas. So when or you can find the best chemical out there, it doesn't matter. You can kill the eggs and the larva and the adult fleas, but you cannot kill those pupa. So those pupa have to be stimulated into hatching somehow. And typically it's carbon dioxide and or vibration that causes those pupa to hatch out. Those pupa have to hatch out in order to become adult fleas and be exposed to the chemical whomever puts down and dies. Those pupa can lay dormant for 6 months. So if you have a property where someone had a lot of animals, cats carry a lot of fleas, you've got to get those pupa hatched out in between turnovers. So if I were to go in and spray the best chemical available, I'm going to kill the eggs, the larvae, and the adult fleas, but I'm not going to kill those pupa. And if that property sits empty for 6 months, next time someone goes in there, those pupa are going to hatch out because they have a reason to. They're waiting for a reason to hatch out. So I guess the moral of the story about fleas is that you can actually go to Possum Landscape and Pest Control Supply and talk to those guys, and they can give you a good product, and they will. And you can apply that product, and you can do the same thing I'm doing. But you've got to get.
We're losing you, Sammy. We're losing you, Sammy.
Put a hatch. So vacuuming is one of the. Are we all there?
We were losing you.
Oh, sorry.
Sound like a computer, maybe.
Yeah, I'm on the borderline of my connection site, but it's always worked for me so far. So vacuuming is one of the best things you can do, and just activity in there in general is one of the best things you can do. So if you have a flea problem, the most economical thing to do is to go to Possum Landscape and Pest Control Supply and talk to those guys and tell them what you got going on and find a product that they can sell you. And they can sell you a lot of the same products I use. There's not that many restricted products out there that you have to have a license to use. Apply that product, and if you got to work in there, deep woods off, will help keep them off of you. But you're working in there, or whoever is in there working is going to help get through the life cycle and get those pupa hatched out, so that when you go to show it to somebody and they come in for the first time, you don't have fleas jumping on them 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
So bed bugs. And we can talk about termites too. Even though that's not really my thing. I try to stay out of the termite business. And I stay out of the bed bug business as well, just because it makes people crazy, literally crazy, and I can understand why. You know, you've got beds or your bugs drinking your blood while you sleep at night in your bed. Can I share my screen, or
You should be able to.
should
You should be able
do
to.
people know what bed bugs look like? Okay.
I've never seen one.
I'm having a problem. I hit the share screen button and it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Right now.
Try it again.
Here we go.
I put it to multiple people can share, so.
Now I got.
There you go.
Is it up?
Yep.
Yep, we see it.
Yep. So there's your bed bug. Like I say, they drink your blood while you sleep at night, and heat treatments are probably the best way to go. I don't know really what to tell you about them as far as how to deal with them, because I'm not certain the best way to relate it to what we do, except that I promise you don't want them. It requires a lot of work from a tenant in order to do the things that need to be done to beat them. There's some people out there who do chemical spraying for them, and they're up to a certain temperature. But at the same time, it requires the people whom are being treated they have to go through a checklist of things that they have to do as well. They have to launder all their stuff. You have to encapsulate mattresses with bed bug approved cases, and a number of things. All that being said, if you were to spend a lot of time on Google researching things, you could figure out a way to beat them yourself. Typically, they bite people on their torso and not necessarily their legs. And everyone reacts different to bed bug bites. Some people it really affects, and they have big, huge marks and itch them and scratch them, and they get bad, and some people don't even notice them. They leave stains behind, and the stain looks like blood that they've digested and crapped out, because that's what it is. They're tough, and you don't want to deal with them. And in a lot of instances, people have to throw a lot of stuff away. There's been, I've heard of people treating them in areas or in bedrooms where they had a wicker headboard, and they actually had eggs inside the hollow wicker on the headboard. And
wow.
Yeah, so they multiply very quickly. And I had a customer call me last week about them, and I referred him to my buddy who's good at them, and because, like I say, I don't like to deal with them because it literally does make people crazy, and I don't need to deal with crazy people.
Yeah.
I could say from a tenant perspective, I've been in that situation where I had to deal with bed bugs, and it is just as you described. We had to wrap the mattress, everything that can be washed and put in the dryer was immediately thrown in there. I immediately got a new place. And the minute it came out of the dryer, went straight into the car. I was in Oklahoma. It was like 110 degrees in the summer. I let it sit in the trunk for 24 hours, even objects that are not clothing, just to kill them off that way. Heat is the best thing to kill them off. When I moved to the new place, after everything was left inside the trunk for a day in that heat, nothing in the new place. But they are bad.
You don't want them, and they're not cheap to get rid of. I've got a good buddy who does them, and he does well doing them, but he deals with crazy people too.
When you see the smaller spots, and that's what you said might be the blood stains or something, is that about the actual size of what they are? I see the bigger ones here, but I think that's blowed up for us to be able to see from what I hear.
Sure. Yeah, they don't get much bigger than, say, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. 3/8 of an inch is about as big as they're going to get. You got a grandmama if you get a 1/2 incher, but they reproduce very quickly. And I wish I should have some better stats for you guys, but I'm winging it. You know, the headboards, if you know, and you can Google bed bug inspections and things like that. I'll typically, if I go to a hotel room or wherever, I'll do a quick check because typically they're around the headboards. They, like a lot of other insects, sense that carbon dioxide. And when you're laying in bed breathing and it's dark, that's when they come out, and that's why people typically get bit on the torso area. And they also kind of leave track marks where they'll puncture, move along, puncture again. They have an antiseptic that they apply as they puncture so you don't feel it. And they'll typically go, you know, maybe three or four bites kind of in a row. And that's one way that some people who react to their bites can maybe tell it is bed bugs. So bites like that, and on the torso area, arms and chest and stuff, that's where you typically see them. And if you're, you know, like I say, if you're looking to do an inspection, that's where you start on the bed. You want to pull the seams back on the mattress, pull all the sheets back, pull the seams back, look for that blood staining. They're crap, you know. And it's like a dark brown red color, and you know, their eggs you can see in one spot here. They're just little teeny white little eggs, you know.
Wow.
In the pictures there, they almost look similar to the German cockroaches in the photos, but when you see them in real life, they do not look like cockroaches. When you see a bed bug, it's now they're hard to find too. They actually are. You need to be with probably in 2 feet of eyesight to actually, you know, conclusively determine that it's a bed bug. This is not something. I mean, you kind of need to be on your hands and knees looking for them, pulling carpet back, things like that. Yeah. It's not something you're standing there at your regular height, 6 feet high or whatever, and look down on the floor and see them. That's not going to happen.
No, not necessarily, but it's happened. Yeah.
Well,
obviously, it's going to depend on the size of the population. But
that's true. That is true. And a lot of times you'll see a lot of dead carcasses in a pile, and you can probably see that from a distance. But as far as just finding 1 or 2 of them, every time I've pretty much been looking for them, I've been on my hands and knees, pulling the carpet back, you know, popping the baseboard back a little bit.
Yep. And they hide well. And I don't know if you ever see that picture here.
Phone jacks. Yeah. I just go ahead and cut phone jacks out of houses because nobody needs them anymore anyway. They love those phone jacks. Mm-hmm. And but you know, my experience as a landlord with them is that the people, the pest control companies that offer the bed bug remediation, they will also scare the hell out of your tenants as well. Now, maybe not intentionally.
No,
But
they're disclosing. They're disclosing.
they're disclosing, but
CYA.
but there is also a bit of salesmanship behind the scare tactic as well. And I'm not saying that that's, you know, necessarily a bad thing, because everybody likes to close a sale. And as long as you're being legitimate, that's fine. But I have had them show up and, you know, stoke more fear than I thought was necessary. Now, I'm not even criticizing that per se, but I'm just saying that that can happen, and you just need to be aware of it as a landlord, that who you send out there might have to do with how well your tenants react and work with you, and so on and so forth. So you need to be in control of the conversation, in my opinion, just as much. And it probably means you need to show up with the pest control person and not take charge of the analysis of it, but be there to be a part of that conversation to kind of quell any nervousness the tenant might have. And not necessarily because I said the pest control guy is doing that intentionally, but because it is a cover your ass scenario for the pest control person. He knows that when he goes in there, he's going to have to go deep, just like the foundation people. All their prices, all those prices have to do with covering your ass. They don't actually have to do with work that they're necessarily going to have to do or not do. It's just, here's my price for dealing with this bullshit, is what it is.
That's right.
So, in my opinion, as a landlord that might be potentially on the hook for bed bugs, which, you know, hopefully that doesn't ever happen to anybody. I actually almost think it's better just to give your tenants an out early. Just one scenario to really consider. Just as much as you would love to keep your tenants in there and so on and so forth, the drama that might unfold and the drama that might ensue, be dealing with all of it, and the expenses that are attached to all that drama and the headaches that are attached to all that drama, you might be better off just getting your tenants out, having them sign a general waiver of liability as soon as possible, giving them $200 to move out, or hell, give them whatever money they need to get out, because the money you're giving them to get out of your place is probably going to be far cheaper than the money you're going to have to spend remediating the bed bugs when they are living there and the bed bug person has to deal with them. In other words, $4,000 to $6,000, and you still have the headache of having to relocate your tenant to a hotel room or something like that, or all these complications that come along with it. I just think it's better to deal with an empty house on situations like that than to deal with tenants that are just going to, unfortunately, it was just a bad luck situation. And, you know, it's just better to get them out of the house and just get a general liability waiver signed as soon as possible, because you don't want to be buying them new mattresses, because you might be buying them new mattresses whether they're stay in the house or not. I just personally think it's better to go get a waiver form signed as possible. Not that you want to screw them over, but get some money in their hands and get an agreement, get a waiver form signed, get them out of the house, and let's just start, you know, do a good job getting your next tenant in there, but get the bed bugs out. But it's kind of just best to hit the reset button in a lot of cases. That's my perspective, but I don't know if somebody else has a different opinion on that. So,
Well, you're totally right, because if you don't get total cooperation from those tenants, you're going to have problems. You're not going to get rid of them.
There's ongoing problem.
They need to know what they need to do, what they need to do, because we're not Pied Pipers. We can't come in and play the flute and take everything out with us. It's you know, there's a science to it. And you know, the bed bugs can live for a long time as well.
And the fear can linger for a long time too. I mean,
well, the pest control guys don't mind it, because those people are just going to take the bed bugs to the next place they go.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
But what causes bed bugs?
See, they're a domestic insect. They're like German roaches, which we'll talk about next, I guess.
Okay.
They don't ever live outside. They don't just crawl up into your house from outdoors. They live exclusively with us. Bed bugs, I'm quite sure, are parasites, actually. Um,
So the people are carrying them with them?
yes, sir. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's how
Or
they
the
get
furnace. What?
introduced into the environment. That's one
Well,
thing,
what
David, that you need to know too, is that you have no liability over the fact that they have bed bugs, and it may be worth putting into contracts. So, in the beginning somewhere, it's not your fault they got bed bugs. Nothing you did. They didn't crawl
Well,
in from outside.
not necessarily my fault, but it's hard to,
Well,
yeah, it's hard to prove. No, in other words, if I was a bad landlord, which I'm not, but yeah, if I had, negligently not gotten the bed bugs out, and you'd be surprised because neighbors talk and they might say, "Oh yeah, that previous tenant had bed bugs too," or whatever, and it can spiral. But anyway, not to dissuade you from your point you were trying to make there. So
yeah, and see, the bed bugs are a good bit like the fleas too. They can go a long time without feeding, and they can feed on one another. Um, eh, I'm
It's like,
not sure that, like with fleas, I'd say get them out of there and go stomp around the apartment and get your fleas to hatch out and kill them all, or put a boom box in there or something, and give those people a reason to hatch out. Because that's what it takes. With bed bugs, they're a lot like the fleas in the way they act. They're not gonna come out and about and search for food, and that life cycle is just gonna really slow down. Um, and you need those bugs to come out, like you said, David. Everywhere they hide, um, they need a reason to come out and be exposed to chemical. That's why the heat treatment is really the best way to go. So in a situation like turning over a mobile home or something like that, um, heat should do it.
how do they do the heat treatment?
They got big old heaters. They go in there and get it up to, I think, 140.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. They got to be careful about what they're doing, obviously, and make sure they don't
Right.
melt anything that need to be melted.
Yep.
That's why it's not cheap,
Yeah.
don't they have to also encapsulate the house? Don't try to put plastic around the entire house as well? Just because in some cases you can't get the house that hot because there's too many holes and the type of equipment they're using. The only way to really hold the heat in to that temperature because they have to also hold that temperature for like what, 6 hours or 12 hours or something. It's a time.
Yeah, not
It's a
12.
time. There's a time factor as well. You could go to like 200 degrees for an hour, or you could do 140 for 6 hours, and yada yada. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the encapsulation allows you to get, and it basically, the unfortunate thing about that too is that now you got the whole damn neighborhood seeing your house being worked on for bed bugs, and it's gonna stir up big questions in the neighborhood.
Well, they're not the only house in the neighborhood, most likely.
Oh yeah,
Are you
yeah.
talking
Well,
about like on the exterior encapsulating?
yeah, like big giant sheets
done?
of gigantic sheets of plastic around the house.
Have you
Like
seen that
making a
done?
tent, like putting up a
Well,
tent.
when I was doing my research, there were cases of people having to do that kind of thing, and I don't know if that definitely has to be done. I can't remember. I'm obviously not an expert, but
Yeah, I've
I
not
just,
heard of it having to be done. And if it does have to be done, they could typically do it from the inside. But basically,
okay,
what they're
yeah,
just gonna do is get anything out of there that needs to come out and use as many heaters as they need to hold temperature for as long as they need to.
yeah. I
That's
guess
why it costs a lot of money, because they're there for a long period of time, just monitoring the temperature, and everyone knows
yeah.
time is money.
Yeah, one of my ladies that cleaned out houses for me, she would take furniture and that kind of stuff, and it was in houses whenever she cleaned them out, and Then she called me back and said, there was bed bugs in that furniture. I said,
Yeah.
what?
Mhm.
So,
That's exactly how the people bring it in, is they get used furniture.
That's exactly
Even
right.
off the side of the road. That's probably, I would
Right.
imagine, the number one way people are bringing it into the house.
Yeah. So
Someone, go ahead.
yeah, people are recommended to mark or tear up or make it so nobody else would want them. If they're throwing something away because of bed bugs, they're told to slash their mattresses and slash up whatever, spray paint it, make it so nobody's going to go pick it up off the street and take it home and carry bed bugs home with them.
Yeah.
well, what do they cause from? Phil?
Well, they're just
They've been around forever.
They're just looking for the next home. That's all it is. They're looking for the next human. They go from one,
They're like a
they-
mosquito.
That sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite thing.
Yeah,
They're
that's
they're
right.
like Tommy. They're looking for the next deal.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Bob.
Right. That's what they got to do to survive.
yeah.
Hey, Sammy, I got a question. So
Yes, sir.
after like your tenants move out and there was bed bugs in your place, how long can those bed bugs last for? I mean, there's other than them feeding on each other, there's no one in there for them to bite anymore. So
They don't need much. They really don't. They could probably, if I had to bet on the bug, I'm always going to bet on the bug.
Well, here's the other thing. The eggs can last for like, I think it's like 2 years.
Yeah.
The eggs can be dormant for like 2 years. You can go spend one night in there, and they can 2 years later hatch the eggs in that single night, and then have enough blood to be able to lay another like dozens of eggs, and all in the order of one night.
yeah,
I mean, they're very sophisticated. They're very sophisticated bugs.
So I'm looking right here in my handy dandy MPMA guide. They date back, since you asked where they came from, 33,000 years ago in Egypt is where they were first.
So it's like a roach, A roach, I mean, go and put him in a microwave and turn it on for 10 minutes and he'll open the door and he'll crawl out. Yep. They're prehistoric.
Right. Yeah.
They look like a tick on the blowed up picture with the little legs and whatever they do.
Mhm.
But obviously the tick is a lot easier to spot than them.
Yeah. And, people burn down stuff trying to fight bed bugs.
But
Yeah,
but
that's
I would
what
say,
I've heard the saying. I've heard the saying say, well, if you want to get rid of them, just burn it. Yeah.
but it's the way I got bed bugs out, and I honestly did it myself. Not saying that's always recommended, or not saying I enjoyed it, not saying
Well, it can be done.
Yeah, but what I went from let's just say $4,000 estimate while the tenants were living in there to, I mean, I spent $50 on chemical, or less than $50.
But how much time on Google?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, trust me. I was, I justified it by saying, okay, I'm making $50 an hour of my time, and I went and chopped away at the subfloor, and I went and tracked the trails as far as I could that made sense. And then I went back and, I mean, I went, in my opinion, above and beyond, and encapsulated with paint, all the different baseboards, or just, even replace baseboards, all sorts of things. And I mean, I found a nest. But and I obviously removed that. But then the question was, are they anywhere else? And I've had new tenants in there, and they've never reported any. So I guess I was lucky to be successful, but I can't say that would be. I'm not.
Hey,
I'm
I'd
not
say
gonna
there's
say.
probably there could be a 50-50 chance they brought some with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so the new tenants have never complained to me about the bed bugs, but it could be the next time I try to do it myself, I could be wrong about my assessment, so I mean, I'm not.
It may be worth investing in a heater. I'm sure it would. You know,
Yes.
Well,
it's your
I have
property. Eat it up if it burns.
yeah, I invested in an ozone machine like a few years back because I had someone die in one of my places, and they didn't find the body for like 3 weeks.
Ooh.
So I used an ozone machine to get the odors out, and that gets smoke out and things like that. And that was like, I got one for like $500, and that thing's great. I use it a lot just because, like, if there's ever smells inside the place, and you just turn it on, leave it. I leave it on overnight and come back the next day, and it smells as fresh as a hospital in that place. And but that's
that wasn't a total I program. That was a we program, wasn't it?
oh no, that was another house that
Another one. Okay.
another one that someone had overdosed on drugs on that one. Anyway,
Yeah.
it sounds
that was
bad.
a we program. Yeah.
Yeah. Santa helped me out in doing a remediation, a biohazard remediation on a house, and we found out from DHEC that we could, in the state of South Carolina, perform our own biohazard remediation. I'm not saying that's smart. Not saying I would do it again the next time, but it saved me $10,000. That's all I can say about that.
That was the first number they popped on you. $10,000.
$10,000, and there wasn't a bit of. It was just a little bit of blood that was a pile of like a I don't know, maybe half a cup of blood on the kitchen floor. It was really nothing, but anyway, don't mean to get off topic there, but it so, but yeah, ozone machine is what I did, but a heater, likewise, you know, if you invested in a heater, then you could, you know, hell, if you invested in a heater like that, you could just go into bed bug remediation business probably. So,
yeah, go out and work for that money though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well,
Tired of that.
Yeah. Well, hell, I work in mobile home business. I earn my money too. Believe me.
Oh no, I hear you. But you get it all done up front.
Yeah, it's good money, but it's not as bad as working dollar for dollar for your money.
That's right.
So,
Punching the clock.
but,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we're gonna talk about roaches.
Yeah, let's talk about German roaches.
Or if
German
anybody
roaches
else.
are like the bed bugs. They're taken from place to place by us. They don't come in from outside. They can't live outside. But they have, there's an Asian roach, which is pretty much identical, except from its behavior and habits. So without being an entomologist and having a really good microscope, it can be really hard to tell the difference between the two without, in my instance, asking questions and figuring out where they're seeing them and what's going on. So like I say, they're moved around from place to place by us. It's crazy because I talked to a customer today who described a similar situation where she saw a similar looking bug, and she had just had a renovation done on her house, and I see that a lot. People get renos done on their homes, and German roaches are introduced into the environment, likely from the people coming to work on their homes who have them at their house. So, I mean, I'll be honest, probably like 7 out of 10 of my customers who do a renovation end up having a German roach problem, you know, a few months down the road. So we get to have that big old conversation about how I can't guarantee against these roaches because they didn't come in from outside, and I'm gonna have to charge you more money for them. But they can be tough. Like bed bugs, they can eat one another. You'll often find them in and around appliances. They like the warmth of the electric current running through, you know, the motors and the wiring and everything else.
Back of
Dishwashers.
refrigerators.
Dishwashers and refrigerators are the first places you're going to find them every time.
Electrical panel boxes. Okay.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. You'll see them in the outlets, and I've seen them in the clock LED for the stove. You know, just stuck in there and died. But it left to their own activity, they can like the bed bugs, they can become a pretty big problem pretty quick, reproduce quickly. You know, I can go into some places and smell them as soon as I open the door. You know, they can cause asthma in kids, I guess, is really the biggest health concern, other than spreading germs and viruses, just like any other insect would, though.
Hi, Sammy.
Hey.
It's Nona. Back on the bed bug, you know how there's like a mattress case, like a zippered mattress?
Yep.
Is that gonna be like, is that gonna help prevent the bed bugs from getting into the mattress? It's
So
like
it will protect the mattress itself from bed bugs. They're most often used, at least in my industry, when we're treating for bed bugs after they've had a problem with bed bugs. You want to encapsulate that mattress with the bed bug approved zipper encapsulator, basically to prevent any bed bugs that are on that mattress right now from being able to come out. You're basically sealing in bed bugs.
Can you use it before the bed bug starts, just for prevention?
But you can, but really the only thing you're doing is protecting that mattress from having bed bugs on it. Will it make their life a little harder? Yes, but they're just going to find other areas to hide. And there's crevices and stuff on that mattress where they're going to find and scoot up in there, and that's where they lay their eggs and stuff. That's why when you do an inspection, you start around the headboard and you peel back the sheets, and then you start looking in the seams of the mattress, or even lift up the corners of the tag of the mattress and things like that close to the headboard, because that's where they primarily spend most of their time. So I wouldn't say it is a smart, proactive thing to do unless, say, someone had bed bugs and you wanted to save that mattress and be able to pull that mattress out and unzip it and take it somewhere else and use it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as far as the German roaches go, let's see. I don't know. Can y'all see like that? If you can see my cursor, that's called an ootheca. And that's basically their egg case. The females carry it around. You can see the females carrying it, hers right here. She'll drop it, and they'll hatch out, and they'll probably have a dozen baby German roaches in there on average. They've got to be treated. They're not going to go anywhere on their own. So, you know, and the clientele that we deal with sometimes, you know, some of them are just used to living with these kind of bugs. So you can do everything you want to probably as far as a pest control, you know, prevention goes, as pest prevention goes, but who's to say that they're not being reintroduced into the environment by the new tenant or homeowner or whatever. But that's basically what you need to know about these domesticated insects, is they don't come in from the outside. They're moved around from place to place by us.
Do you think they could travel between one mobile home and the next in a mobile home park?
No.
Like the one you saw, the one of mine you saw?
No, not by crawling outside. No.
But they could be carried with a box or a bag. Or...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't take, that's all it takes. They just need to be carried by us somehow. So if you go see your neighbor, you know, you got roaches, you're good friends with the neighbor over there, neighbor's gonna get roaches. If you know, that's all there is to it. If you're visiting over there once, twice a week and you have roaches bad at your house, they're gonna get they're going to get roaches. We've had problems on some high-end Isle of Palms rental properties where they do week-to-week rentals, which is a good way to fight the German roaches, because like the bed bugs, you have to have total cooperation from the tenant. Not total, but good cooperation from the tenant in order to beat them. They have to stay kind of clean. They can't just leave all kind of stuff laying around everywhere and food laying around everywhere and stuff like that. They've got to keep it clean in order for what I do to work. And there's also a bait approach, which I do as well. It's a chemical and a bait approach and an insect growth regulator and all this into the weed stuff that y'all probably don't really care about. But the tenant needs to help us keep it clean, because we want our chemical and our insect growth regulator to work. But after these roaches being exposed to that over and over after a number of years, like fleas, they gain resistance. So that's why you kind of need a three-pronged approach where you're switching up chemicals and you're using a bait as well for any resistant cockroaches to, to eat that bait who are resistant to the chemical. So if there's food everywhere, then they're just going to eat the food and they're not going to get to the bait, and you're not going to have as good a success. Those are way different than the para-domestic roaches, like the smoky brown and American cockroaches, which a lot of people from around here just call palmetto bugs. They get big, they're scary looking, they live outside, and they come into your house basically randomly unless you have a water issue. So that's a different story. I guess we could talk about that a little bit later when we get done talking about the German roaches here. But they're the ones that we more need to worry about, because, and especially like David was talking about earlier, in between tenants is the best time to take care of them, because unlike those bed bugs, they stay just as active. They do their normal stuff. And if there's no dirty tenants leaving food around everywhere, they're going to find that bait. They're going to come out, be exposed to the chemical, be more actively foraging, and we'll get through that population quicker. But it is something you want to take care of immediately. And any pest control problem in a turnover, you're going to want to handle that first, because like we've talked about in a lot of the life cycles of these insects we're dealing with, it takes time to get through. So, you probably want to spray, and then continue work, knowing if you're working in there yourself that you're potentially dealing with stuff that has pesticide on it. You want to start getting through that life cycle as quickly as possible. Like the bed bugs, they can eat one another, but the products we have out there, like as far as the baits and stuff I was talking about earlier, if a cockroach eats that bait, 3 cockroaches could feed off of that dead cockroach, and that bait would work on them as well. That's why we kind of throw everything at them and try to get it. I can typically, some companies want to come a number of times and do follow-ups and charge you this and that. I charge a fair price in the beginning, and I typically 90% of the time get them taken care of in one visit, as long as a lot of these treatments are done when people are turning over, because a lot of people are just used to living with them. They live with them. They basically probably brought them with them when they came. And so it's no different than where they just were. There's just fewer in the beginning, and then they become a bigger problem. Or they don't even say anything about them because they know, or they feel embarrassed or whatever it is, And then they move out, and you walk in there and you're like, holy cow. You open the cabinets and cockroaches fall out. So.
Hey, Sammy, is a good way to alleviate those, not alleviate the problem, but to get rid of them in between tenants, is to smoke bomb the place. We've had to do that in several of our places that we go into, after we buy them or have a bad tenant.
Yeah,
So
what you're going to get from that, Steve, is you're just going to knock down basically any insect that's exposed to the mist. The foggers have a very little residual. The products that I use are there for a long period of time. So basically, you can get a quick knockdown with a fogger, but it's not gonna continue to work for you. Same goes with fleas. Fogging for fleas really doesn't. You kill some fleas, but you're kind of just making a small dent. You want to apply a pesticide that's it's gonna be there for a while. And these companies these days, the pesticides are amazing, and they're micro encapsulated and time released, so they break down really slowly. And the products I use on my day-to-day quarterly stuff, I spray exterior homes. I focus on single residence, and I spray around the outside. On the first visit, I like to come inside and spray in the kitchen, bathrooms, laundry room, garage. And that's just to gain control of what may be inside the home already. And then from then on out, it's outside only. And I just carry a little B&G, it's a nice sprayer, but I'm not like pumping tons and tons of chemical into these houses. I'm spraying around the perimeter and the doors and the windows and
These bed bugs.
And the entry points and stuff like that. And that chemical lasts outside for 3 months. And I've done it long enough to where I can attest to that, because when I do have people call back and they're having problems, they're seeing bugs, they're typically within 2 weeks of being due for service. And I have people all the time, I knew you were going to call, I saw a bug dead yesterday, or blah, blah, blah. So the chemical these days, if you think about it, if it lasts outside for 3 months in the rain and the sun and being exposed to all that, it's going to last for quite a while in your kitchen cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's used, and if anyone's doing anything on their own, the label is the law. If you don't do what the label tells you need to do for the application you're using it for, just know that the label is the law. Now, are you going to get caught? I mean, there's like 4 or 5 pesticide regulation people in the state of South Carolina, as far as I know. Clemson handles all the pesticide regulation. So we all have to continue to stay somewhat educated and keep our credits and stay licensed and everything else. So
I've used a powdered chemical, Seven Dust,
mm-hmm.
and I used it in the yards. Used it. In fact, about it, when I was buying a lot of timber and stuff, I'd run into different insects and whatever, ticks, red bugs, whatever. I could put some in a sock, and I could slap it around my ankles and crotch and the race and around my waist and whatever. And I come back on, hey, I can take a shower and I'm fine. And no problem. I hadn't had a bug. It didn't have a bite. But you go in there sometime without it. Oh my God.
It's a pretty
Get some
eco-friendly
Clorox,
chemical.
get the stuff. Yeah.
It's a pretty eco-friendly chemical, but I'd be careful around splashing it around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I'm saying with the Seven Dust, and they use it on plant foods and that kind of stuff too.
Sure.
But fleas and whatever.
Yeah.
They do leave a little residue though.
Sure. And like we talked about the fleas earlier, vacuuming is one of the best things you can do to get through the life cycle and speed it up, for sure. And there's green attempts at treatment for all these things, like dimethyous earth.
Yep.
And that's basically crushed up seashells, and what that does is it scratches up the exoskeleton of insects. So it works great. It works for bed bugs. Like David said, with enough Google research and will to do, you can handle bed bugs on your own. Now, I don't know, you can't handle your tenants' bed bugs on your own, but if they showed up in your house and you wanted to get rid of them, you could do it. It's not the end of the world, but it was just going to take some effort and some research, and you can save yourself a lot of money, and you can certainly get it done, because you're going to end up spending a lot of time and energy taking care of them anyway.
And we're probably not doing it on a regular basis enough to keep them up.
Well, see, the thing is,
as an individual,
yeah.
You're a professional at it. You know what it is, and you know when you can do
Yeah.
it, how regularly you need to do it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'd have to stay at it for sure.
Mhm.
Termites, we can talk a little bit about that. I don't do them. I feel like you can do all the right things, and for someone, they can still find a way to say something bad about you just because of the nature of the industry. Um, but I do know some stuff about them. You know, I've obviously had to take courses on them and everything else. So if anyone has any questions as far as they go,
Tell it all,
you know,
Bubba. Tell it all.
typically, you know, as far as a termite bond works, um, you need to be careful when you're picking who you want to go with and who you're dealing with from the beginning, because you're kind of married to them for a period of time after you make that decision. So essentially, the way a termite bond works is a treatment typically lasts for 10 years. So a good liquid treatment done properly doesn't need to be done again for 10 years. But what the termite companies do is they're going to hold the bond on it, so they need to come inspect it every year. And so they'll crawl the crawl space or shine the flashlight around. And one thing you need to know about is they're going to do a lot of things to cover their tail, because that's what they do. And a lot of it's really justified, you know. We have to do things on our part too to protect our homes. It can't just be all left up to a chemical and you know, the pest control company, and we've got to keep the water away from the houses and everything else. So termite treatments work really well. You do want a liquid treatment done, and it is going to last for 10 years, but you do want to maintain your bond, because what the termite company does every year is they come and they do their inspection, and they typically charge $1 plus per linear foot of the property. And you know, to be kind of honest about it, a lot of them are coming through looking for reasons to cover their tail. And probably 75% of it is 100% legitimate, because we do need to keep the water away from the house. We can't encourage termite activity around our house and just expect the termite company to, you know, like I said, be the Pied Piper. It's just not how it works. So what's going to end up happening is when they do come do their yearly inspection, they're likely going to leave you a list of things that they want you to get taken care of, and they'll probably give you a price on doing it for you.
Yeah.
But the deal is you want to make sure you get those things done, because they've recorded it on their end. They've told you, hey, basically they're saying, in order to maintain your bond, we need you to keep this downspout out 2 feet away from the house, or there's a rotten sill on the back door that needs replaced, or whatever it may be. And like I said, most of it is all legitimate, and it needs to be done. So that's basically how a termite bond works. And that's how you could see that there's a little bit of gray area there to where people are basically untrusting anyway. And I feel like there's just enough gray area there. People don't like paying you $350 to come walk around their house and give them a list of chores to do. It's just all there is to it. So, you know, a lot of people really see it as the CYA, and some companies are kind of shady, and that's all it really is. Most companies are really legit. At least most local good companies are really legit, and have good guys working for them, because man, termite treatment is not easy to do. You know, you've got to drill wall voids. You know, if you've got a brick veneer, you've got to drill in between the brick and your plywood wall there, and you've got to apply the right amount of chemical, and you've got to go 2 feet down and drill another hole and get it right where it needs to go, that 3.5, 4 inches in, and apply the right amount of chemical. And if you've got any hollow piers anywhere, or if you missed the seam between the driveway and the garage, it's a lot of liability.
If you got what, Sammy? You broke up a little bit about the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, if you miss the seams in between the driveway and the garage, you know, where you got your expansion joint, that has to be treated a certain way.
Mhm.
It's a lot, and you need somebody who really knows what they're doing it. It's a tricky business.
If you're putting down a
Think
new
about it.
driveway,
You've got to cover every bit of ground where a termite can come up from the ground. So you think you've got probably a half inch at least gap in between your brick veneer and your plywood on the house. You've got to apply chemical to that area every 2 feet and get it dispersed properly. So you're covering every inch of that structure. You can't miss anything. You want to talk about rats?
Because if
I
you
didn't-
missed anything, that would be their way in, wouldn't it?
They'll find it. They'll
Yeah,
find
it's
it.
the path of least resistance.
They'll find it, and you'll pay for it down the road.
what is
Well,
there?
Sammy, would you recommend any termite companies in the Charleston or Dorchester area?
The best guy I know who does termites, All Pro Pest Control. Might have changed it to All Pro Pest Management because pest control sounds old these days. But
All Pro
Pest Control.
Pest Control. Okay.
Yeah. Randy Bishop's the owner's name. He'll talk your ear off. He's a great guy. He's really active in the pest control community. He was the guy that I was going to bring on with me for when we were going to do a live meeting and be the termite expert. Because he's good at what he does. So I've known him for a long time, and I've recommended it to a lot of people, and I'll let him handle the termites.
All right. Yeah, what do you think about Terminex, or what's the other one? Yeah, is it called Exterminators? I forgot.
I mean, I don't like to talk bad about any company. Let's just say I was riding around in my neighborhood in the golf cart and saw a Terminex guy out working and struck up a conversation and didn't necessarily agree with the way he was going after termites. Now he's one guy working for Terminex. I think Terminex allows their employees flexibility and kind of helps them build their own little mini franchise and have something to work toward. So I don't know how much leeway Terminex has with their guys, but like I say, I wouldn't have recommended the way he was doing it.
Well, don't they the ones that put out those little bait stations around the house?
Yes, sir.
And put wood in them and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
And
right. It's a
as
bait.
far apart of those things are, it looks to me like that there'd be a lot of gap in there for them to get through.
Well, it's a bait, and it worked really well. And it can kill off I can't remember, but a number of colonies. One little bait station can kill a number of termite colonies. Any acre of yard probably has 5 to 10 termite colonies living underground in the yard. And right now they're really swarming a lot. So people are seeing them show up in their bathrooms and stuff primarily. They come in through the fart fan. Mm-hmm. And they're termites with wings, and they basically just drop their wings and die. And it's like any other swarming insect. A very small. What they're doing is they're expanding colonies. The colony's not sustainable any longer, so they got to get rid of some people. So they send them all out, and their job is to create a new colony. And 99.5% of the swarmers don't make it, but a very small percentage does, and it continues.
So it's a good thing whenever you see them and they're dead.
Doesn't mean you have termites, just means you have a colony swarming nearby.
Right. Okay. And that's it. But and they live in trees and stuff. I've seen.
Absolutely.
In a little hole. Yeah.
Absolutely.
In a hollow place on a tree or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was about a month ago. They were swarming big time.
Yeah, and they're swarming. They're swarming last week. I got a few calls on them.
Well, I was asked this question too, and it's a real reputable, it's a big name company, and they have had bond on my house for years, and I don't think they have treated it, come back and treated it. I mean, I've been here 30 years, so 31, 32 years. So I haven't seen them come back and do the treatment they did in the very beginning. I did add a toy room on the side of my house, on the back of my garage, and that one of the guys that come along, he said, "Well, this I don't see this on the plot plan that you had for your house there." And I said, "No, I just added that." And he said, "Well, let me." And he said, "I'll just go ahead and trench it around it." And he did it and did the thing. Well, that's fine. That's good. But I had a leak in the shower, which wound up costing me around $6,000 to $7,000 to fix. And that place was right where one of the doors to go under the house was at. He had to pass, all the inspectors that went under the house over the years has had to pass that. And they never mentioned about the leak that was coming from a shower. Of course, I have to say that the plastic is 2 coats of plastic down there, and it was dry by the time they got there. But they said they checking on the seals and everything else, but yet that problem started most probably about 5 years ago, and I just got it fixed this year. Whenever I could pull a piece of the tile that was broke in the shower, or it broke when I was taking it out, and I could see and I pulled the concrete and all come with it for the tile, and you could see the ground. But he never mentioned that. I've never seen that he's ever wrote anything, any of them's ever wrote. And they send you this thing and said, "Well, if you want to be present when the inspector comes, all you have to do is just wait on him to come," and that kind of thing. But they want you to go ahead and pay way ahead, 3 or 4 months ahead of time. And then to get him in, yep, and I've had some to really go do some extraordinary things. And they'd always say, "Everything's fine, everything's fine." I didn't have to do any other thing. But it just gets me is that whenever they got a shower like that, it is wet, and that's going to create termites. And they never see that, and that's right above the door that they have to crawl into. What would be the repercussions if you did have a termite problem?
I don't know. That's why people don't like termite companies.
Yeah. Yeah, my neighbor, the same neighbor across the street, my wife's cousin, he had asked a friend of his to come in and look at the bathroom, hall bath, and check that out because it felt strange and whatever. Well, he went whenever Gene went and tapped on the floor, it went all the way through. And then it extended into the bathroom behind that, which is in the master bedroom. Then it went down the back wall of his house and around his fireplace and almost to the door that goes in the backyard. And he went through all kinds of stuff. Clemson, everybody coming and checked it, and the people just closed up shop. Same people opened another one.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he got very little money out of it, very little money, and he spent a lot to put it back. In fact, about it, where the door he went in under the house at, they had a seal there that they wrote every time they went under there, and they come back out. They dated it and which one of them inspected it, or they wrote somebody's name. Mm-hmm. And that guy had only been there like 3 weeks, and he never found a problem. But he'd only 3 weeks later, whenever they found they had the problem.
Yeah, those termite bonds. I think if you read the fine print, that pretty flimsy language they got in there, it gets a lot of out clauses. I know that, I've got a couple of stick built I do other rental properties than just mobile homes. The majority is mobile homes. Luckily, I don't have to deal with termites because, well, I think I may have only had one small instance of it, but for the most part, it's not a problem in a mobile home. But my point is, I've had treatments on my stick-built stuff, and I have to do it because I can't do it myself. I'm do it yourself to a certain point, and crawling in a crawl space with dangerous chemicals is not, I got to draw the line somewhere. But the point is I've read the contracts, these bonds, and the one bond that they offered to me was they come back for a yearly inspection, and that if they find so the initial charge would have been $500-600, and I agreed to that, but they wanted to come back yearly and inspect it for $60 or $70, and if they found termites, their bond was, well, we'll have a topical application to the area we found termites. And so that wasn't much of a bond, really. That was just kind of a, sorry,
Band-Aid.
it didn't. Yeah, Band-Aid. Let's call that a Band-Aid. But even the really the best bond out there, I think, maybe I'm wrong. It's not like I've studied all of them, but they really are just going to provide some coverage for your parts that are termite damaged. So in other words, if you have drywall and all these different things that are on the outside of it, their insurance policy will pay to uncover the termite damage and fix what's damaged, and then the structure that's damaged is repaired, and they're not on the hook for putting the rest of everything back together for you. That's where they stop. That's one that I've heard, and maybe I'm not. Maybe that's just one type of bond, but and I know homeowners policies. Everybody should know it doesn't cover damage from insects of any form, but the bonds that I understand are just, hey, we're going to fix your structure, your framing, because that was the part that actually sustained the damage. And then once that's completed, everything thereafter is, back on you. Now maybe that's still a worthwhile bond because, hey, that framing with the damage on it is, I'm sure, a very expensive endeavor in itself. But there are points at which these bonds stop. They don't, they say we fixed the termite damage and nothing else.
So you need a rehabber to come in behind him, right?
That was my understanding. Yeah. Now you need all the bells and whistles to fix it to where it looks like nothing happened, but you got your new framing. So I don't know, Sammy, that's been your experience or understanding, or if you know of any bonds that are different from that or what. But
yeah, read your bond for sure, and that's when the lawyers get involved.
Yeah.
Well, the contract's wrote for the person that's writing it.
There's no question.
His benefit, not yours.
Yep.
Even though you paying for it.
Yeah. It's a unilateral contract law.
Yeah, that's why I just, I decided when I first started out, I was like, of course I'm going to do termites. I'd be stupid not to. And the more people I talked to and the more I thought about it, it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a profitable business, and you have to manage it, and there's a bit of an art behind it where you want to guarantee that they won't get termites, but nobody in their right mind can 100% guarantee that, because that's just not the way the world works. However, that's why you have this bond. It's to try to, have some amends with the ones that didn't work out.
Yeah. So the further we go in this conversation, the more it makes sense as to you can do all the right things for someone and have all the best intentions, but there's still that enough gray area there where they can find a way to drag you through the mud.
And that's everything. That's everything. That's just being a landlord. That's being, that's driving your car down the road. I mean,
Yeah, but being a landlord, you can't you can't have somebody really get online and totally trash your entire business. You're kind of,
yeah, well, that's
a little
true.
more
Yeah,
incognito than driving around in a big old labeled truck.
yeah, that's true. Thanks
Getting
for
traffic,
that. Tracy's helped us out with the incognito part, I think.
That's
So,
right.
hats off to him.
Basically got a sweet backdrop there too. I don't know if he can hear us or not.
Yeah. He's shaking his head.
Oh, he hears everything. He hears it all. He doesn't miss it.
That's nice, Tracy. I like that.
But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that type of business is one of those ones where it's like anything else, like even being a GC, it's like when the money's good, it's really good. And when the headache pops up, you kind of scratch your head and say, damn, I don't know, was this all worth it? But that's how I feel about the rental business too. There's days where I'm like, whew, what did I get myself into? What am I doing here? But in the end,
right.
I've stuck around, and it makes sense, So,
And the termite companies are doing the same thing we do. They're covering their ass,
yeah,
and they're just trying to do business and cover their tail, and do the best they can. Just like I said, there's no Pied Piper. There's no be all, end all, fix all.
yeah.
Like you set reasonable expectations.
Yep. That's always good to have. The best thing to do in any of these situations is to have conversation up front. That's the reasonable expectations. And if that didn't work out, then the best thing you can do is be good at negotiating yourself out of a situation. And that's just as important of a skill as well, because it's how you handle a crisis in your business.
How you keep it from being a crisis.
Yeah, right. It could be a miniature crisis. It could be a miniature crisis, and you can mitigate that and do the best you can, or you can do the wrong thing with your behaviors and turn it into a bigger crisis. And I've done a little bit of both of those in my time and learned from mistakes. And some people are okay with a crisis getting to the point where someone needs to hire an attorney, and sometimes you got to let it go to that because the person's being unreasonable and things like that. But
and then you don't know what type attorney you're gonna get.
Yeah,
because there's one of them on every corner. Yep.
Right.
But in our business, we really need a real estate attorney, as long as he says he's a real estate attorney and proves it. Yeah.
But the good thing is at least for now, we haven't had to use attorneys a whole lot. Just have them on your speed dial. But it's pretty rare when really I've ever had a worst case scenario. Really, I think part of that's luck, but part of it's skill too. I mean, where I can see a disaster getting ready to happen, and you go in and you nip it in the bud quickly. That's same for bugs too. Same for handling the bugs, I'm sure. If you get lazy and let those termites get out of control on your houses, that's your own damn fault. So
we're always trying to prevent crises.
Yep.
Everyone.
So. That's great. Do you have anything more to say? I think this is normally when we're wrapping up our meetings. I know Vincent and Nona are handling the meeting, but does anybody else have anything more to say, Sammy, or other questions?
Well, Sammy, I want to tell you, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, that was really informative.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, we'll cover rats really fast. So rats, best thing to do is try to keep them out from under the house if you can. In mobile homes, you can't do it. Crawl spaces, hardware cloth over crawl space vents, AC unit conduits, they're famous. If there's a hole there bigger than what it needs, a rat's gonna take it straight up to the attic, to the air handler. Any hole the size of a quarter or bigger needs to be filled. If a rat can get its skull through it, it will get in there. about it. Be careful with rat poison. You don't want them dying somewhere where you can't track them down and get them out of there, because then they'll stink and you'll have flies. So kill traps. I would recommend kill traps if you're trying to trap rats.
Yeah.
And there's a difference in the mouse and the rat. The way they eat, the way they do
I
things.
don't know. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen, honestly, I haven't seen any mice in 10 years. Everything I've dealt with has always been rats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you can keep them out from under the house, that's a big deal. Especially if you got a long-term investment. You know, taking that proactive step in the beginning, and just kind of cutting it off at the pass is, you know, it'd save you money down the road if you have to hire somebody to come in and start killing rats that are already under the house and then sealing it up when it's done. It's called exclusion work. There's a lot of properties you can look up for rodent, I mean, a lot of products you can look up for rodent exclusion. The biggest thing is, you know, if you're going to hold on to a property for a long period of time, it's probably a good idea to resecure those crawl space vents and try to make sure that there's no openings where any kind of rodent or animal can get underneath the house. And that includes a tight crawl space access. You know, it's the risk reward. It's all on a certain timeline. It's all going to happen eventually. So maybe you could go 10, 15 years and never have a problem. Chances are, you know, depending on where the property is, obviously, and what kind of population is in the area. I know that East Cooper and Isle Palms and Mount Pleasant, with all the development and the marshland and everything else, there's a really high population in that area. So whenever you're close to some woodland or development around woodland and marsh area, where you need to be watching the rodents. And then I'm done. Just wanted to get that in there. We didn't talk about the paradomestic roaches, though, the smoky brown and American cockroaches. Those are the ones that come in from the outside. They're the big bugs we see. And you typically don't have a problem with them living and breeding inside a structure unless they have adequate moisture. By adequate moisture, I mean abnormal moisture for us, like a plumbing leak, a roof leak, an area that stays damp or wet the majority of the time. That's what those insects, and mainly any insect, requires to thrive and live. So that's why my exterior pest control service works. As long as you don't have a problem inside your house where they can live and breed, these paradomestic roaches, the smoky brown and American cockroaches, the big ones we call palmetto bugs, you're not going to have a problem with them living and breeding inside your house unless you have a water problem, basically. Other than that, they're just coming in from the outside and trying to find enough moisture to survive.
Look in the electrical boxes, and like you said, refrigerators and the backs of stoves. A lot of people have.
Yep.
I had a lady that had a lot of roaches. Oh my God! But then they come to find out, and all of a sudden they showed up, and she had bought she just couldn't get satisfied on what kind of stove she wanted. She keep trading stoves, and she'd get a bargain when, you know, that kind of thing. And or a refrigerator, and they'd be, oh God, you could look at that fan or the web the radiator type thing that's behind the refrigerator, and my God, you could see them crawling, you know.
Oh yes, sir.
Yeah, but she couldn't understand why in the world that pest control man said he didn't do his job. Yeah, he did. You had it squared away at one time, and now you don't. You got the problem.
That's
Get
right.
rid of it again, you're gonna be starting it all over.
That's right.
That's another reason for me not to rent.
Yep.
Own a fund. Option to buy, yes, you owning it.
Mm-hmm. You
It's
still
your
got to be
problem.
careful, though. It's still your property. You don't want it getting trashed too bad.
That's right. Yep. Well, I'll say again, Sammy, you done good, Bubba.
Thank
Did
y'all.
good. Yep.
Tired.
Sure.
It's been a long day.
Yeah. Been a good fun day though.
Yes, sir.
I've got to sit outside a right good bit today, enjoying the deck.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Beautiful
Sammy,
weather.
y'all got on lockdown in Dorchester County, but Berkeley and Charleston didn't get a lockdown today. Why y'all being so bad up there?
I think it's our new sheriff wanting to come and do
Oh,
something.
Mike Turner.
Your
Mike
buddy.
Turner.
Yeah. I found out
We-
that Poncho is going to be a co-sheriff. So I don't know. I saw that on the sign. I said,
The
I'd
under sheriff.
under sheriff. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Under sheriff. I never heard of that before, but everything's brand new. New words are being invented and put in the dictionary. Yeah. Well, if anybody got any more questions or got something they want to say, did Stephen ever get on? Tisha, did he ever get on? He wanted to ask a question tonight or tell something about real estate. By the way,
What?
he closed his first deal this week, and I'm real proud of him. And he just got his real estate license and closed his first deal this week.
That's wonderful.
Yep, I was proud of him.
Yes.
Annabelle must have taught him something. I don't know. No. Okay, guys. Anybody got anything to say?
Nope. Appreciate it, Sammy.
Yeah, no problem. Fun talk. All about bugs.
Thank you. Hey, and Sammy, we'll do another one again where we can put you up on the big screen in the main meeting room. You know,
Yeah.
so you can show off all the pictures or whatever. Might be like, might be 6 months or a year from now we'll do it, but we'll lock you in for another.